What is up, YouTube? I am Eric and you are watching Retro Video Game Pickups. In this video, we are talking about the IGN article about GameStop and how they talked to a few employees. So with that being said, if you like games, consoles, or product reviews, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification. With that being said, let's hop into it. Okay, so we are going to talk about the IGN article about GameStop. Now, you guys know on this channel I enjoy talking about GameStop because GameStop is one of those game companies that is everywhere, at least in the United States. It is a very, very big company that provides a lot of games to gamers, and so that's why this company is always in my videos. I've noticed that videos I've done about GameStop have done very well lately, so I'm going to continue to dig deep into the topics at hand about GameStop and continue to roll them. Actually, I thought about creating a GameStop playlist for you guys. That way, if you have questions or want to see what I think about certain topics that I've talked about already, you'll be able to do that. So with that being said, I'm just going to bring out my cell phone. We're going to talk about the article here. I have it pulled up and I wanted to talk about it and read it because honestly, this is interesting, but I'm kind of not surprised. First off, this is titled "The Truth About Working at GameStop. Workers reveal their experiences." So the first part of this article is basically just the IGN people talking about GameStop, where it originated, how long it's been a company, and kind of how it's been doing. Now it talks about in March 2017, they closed 150 stores and their sales dropped 13.6%, which is a lot of money in 2017. Continues to go on. Say 2018 November, GameStop reported a third quarter loss of $488.6 million, which was an absurd amount of money. That's a huge loss, and so a buyout was thought about there. So that's kind of what this is talking about. It introduced how in 2018 as a whole they lost $673 million, which is absolutely insane. And then it goes on to talk about how they got a new CEO in 2019. I mean, it didn't really give you that much at the beginning. It just said, hey, here's GameStop. They're kind of going on the decline. 2017 was a bad year. 2018 was a terrible year. 2019, they're trying to do something. And then they talked about the redesign or reimagining of the stores. Now, they talked about how the game stores were basically reverted to half the store was a place to play and the other half was to where you could shop. And then they even mentioned the retro GameStop stores, which if you guys watch the channel, you know I've been in one because honestly, apparently the one in Oklahoma is the one that I guess matters, and that's apparently like 45 minutes away from me, so who knew that this was gonna happen? That's pretty awesome that I was able to go there. They talked about the retro store a little bit, but they failed to mention a big thing about the retro store. The retro store in Oklahoma was just a retro store in the back half. The back half had CRTs and had NES, SNES, GameCube, Wii, whatever, the old school stuff. The Xbox original, it had the PS2, the PS1. You guys catch the drift. But what they didn't mention in this video or in this article is the actual front half of the store is unchanged, at least for the most part. So if you walk into a normal GameStop that has been reimagined, you're hit with that Xbox One, the PS4, and the Switch stuff. Now that is about 90% of the front of these retro stores. Now there was a little glass case that showed a few different games that they sold, but for the majority, you could have just gone in there and not thought it was a retro GameStop until you got to the back half. Now, if you continue going on and you talk to them and say, hey, I'm looking for this kind of game, they do have somewhat. They have drawers that have these games, but to call it a retro store is an interesting thing, and I think I might make a video about that to go in more detail about that. If you would like that video, comment down below because I would love to talk about that. But continuing on with the article here, they talk about how people were worried about it closing. I mean, it doesn't seem to be like they really dug into this all that much. I honestly felt like they just found like 3 people they might know that might have worked at GameStop and did an article about it, because honestly, I could have told you most of these things. The first one they talk about is like a manager who knows her store is doing well, but then having the people not know that. The people don't know that they're working there, don't know if their store is doing well, and so it shows that they were worried about it, which is a shame. I mean, I feel like that's something that they should be upfront about. However, it doesn't seem like they were really all that upfront about it. These people are worried about losing their jobs the very next day. They don't know if their store is doing well or if it's going to be closed, and so I feel like that's something that these managers, or maybe regionally, they should talk to their people and say, hey, you guys need to not worry about this. This is not a big deal for our store. Like, if a store is doing well, they're probably not going to close. So I think that's a little like of the media, like this article, kind of scaring people that actually work for these companies, and especially GameStop, because if you worked for GameStop in this day and age and you thought that was your only way of income and you saw all these bad things, I could see why people were very afraid of it. But then it talks about how I guess they changed the spin of this article very quickly to talk terribly about how GameStop is still into trading phones, which, let's be honest, it's 2020. GameStop, be smart and get out of the phone business. It's not doing you anything good, and it's just causing more headache. And so they talk about how they called a local GameStop and they said, this is GameStop where we give you cash for your old smartphones. How can I help you? And then they talk about that a little bit. They say how some of these managers' goals have been 7 trade-ins for phones in a week. Others are 5 to 10. Like, that's a lot of phones. I don't know anybody that I have talked to that's thought, or even has done this, has taken a phone to GameStop. It just seems to be like a waste of money, and honestly, why would you want to take your phone to GameStop? You can literally sell it yourself and make way more money. You can go on Google and say, how much is this phone selling for on eBay? How much is it selling for on Mercari? How much is trade-in for GameStop? And so I think this is one thing that's a big issue with GameStop, is pushing that, but I don't understand why it was involved in this article. But it does say some interesting things. They heard about people at other stores getting fired for not getting enough phone trades, which is something you really can't control anyways, because if the phone doesn't come in the store to be traded in, how are you going to get it traded in? I don't see that. It says the tactics, especially the tech trades and the power of rewards membership, feel like we're shoving it down people's throat, is what one person that they cited in this article. They didn't use last names either, which was kind of bugged me. I feel like these people could have been no names. They didn't mention that, hey, we're gonna drop the name so you don't know who they are, but it also didn't seem like I couldn't have just made these names up and written an article myself. But it's interesting, like, they talked about the feeling of like tech trade-ins and bugging people about it, and I feel like that's something that GameStop has always been about. They've always been those very salesmanship pushy. They feel like car salesmen when they're being pushy about this trade-in, this trade-in, the new power-up awards, the new all this stuff, pre-ordering, all that stuff. GameStop has done that for a long time. And it's very interesting that they haven't gotten away from that. Like, I don't know of another store that has pushed this much of like annoying your customers. And I can kind of see why GameStop is having issues and like moving forward and all that, because they're probably pissing off people and people don't want to go back in. And like, be honest, I can order all this on my phone. So it also talked about how people heard of an actual manager that traded in his own personal cell phone in order to meet that goal, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think that you should punish an employee, or especially not a manager, for being one-off. Like, it's hard to get trade-ins for cell phones. No one wants to do that, and so I think that's very interesting. I thought this article was weird because I feel like this article just was very open-ended. It didn't really feel like it had a place to go, and I didn't really like that. And I read it and I was like, okay, yeah, I could see that being interesting. Okay, yeah, that's happening. But there's nothing in this article that makes me like pop out of my chair and be like, yes, that's totally what we think. Like, we all understand no one wants to buy cell phones. You don't have to keep reiterating it. There was like 6 paragraphs about it. And so they talked about that. I just didn't like this article. I could keep going, but the more I get involved with talking and reading this article, the more I'm like feeling like this is a pointless article, that they just had to get out an article about GameStop this week, so they pushed this out. I will put this down below in the description so you can go out and read it yourself. But I didn't like this. I thought this article was very crappily written, very rough draft feeling, and their sources weren't really anything to be bragging about. And they didn't brag about it, they just didn't talk about it. Like, their sources, do these people even work at GameStop? You never introduced the people, you never said, hey, this is blah blah blah, worked there for 5 years. You just said their name and then continued on. Like, we should expect that they're a seasoned veteran that worked at GameStop. Like, where's your credibility? There wasn't any, and I feel like that was a big deal. It was wrong with this article. And so yes, GameStop is a topic that is loved to talk about on YouTube, and I like to talk about it, honestly. It's interesting. Nowhere else have we seen a company take over so much with video games and then do so terribly and still be around. And talking about 2018, they lost $500 million. Like, that's enough to close down and call it a day. But they're still out there working. So I think we all like to hate on GameStop, and I understand why. It has bad attitude and all that about it. But at the end of the day, it feels like when some people talk about GameStop, they actually enjoy working there. At least they enjoy working with people, and the community is good, except for those stupid people that come in and whine. But I feel like the stigma of GameStop is just overshadowing something that could be amazing with GameStop. And I think that's why I wanted to talk about this article, is because this article right here just talked bad about the article about GameStop, but there was some things that if you dug into a little bit deeper, you could say these people seem to have enjoyed working there. But yes, the business has its issues. So I wanted to talk about this for you guys. If you like this or have any idea or any opinion about it, comment down below and let me know. I'm going to work on that playlist and put together all the GameStop videos. Like, you guys can watch them if you want to see what I think about GameStop more and more. I'm thinking about talking about GameStop more just because it's worked out well. You guys seem to like it, and it's an interesting thing to me, so I'm passionate about it. So I think it works well all around. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification. That way you know when I post a new video, which is every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And one last time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you have a good day.